How many times have you seen a game fully finished development only to not actually be released? What if that happened, but the game was actually considerably better than its predecessor? My name is St. Corvus, and this is my review of Star Fox 2. You'd be forgiven if you're watching this video and you don't know what Star Fox 2 is, nor have heard of it before. I myself only found out about this game existing a few weeks ago when I had the idea of playing and reviewing the whole Star Fox series because of the upcoming remake. As it turns out, in 1995, the original developers of Star Fox, Argonaut Software, actually finished development on a direct sequel to their original game, also set to be released on the Super Nintendo. Due to concerns about gamers wanting games with fresh 3D graphics from other consoles at the time and no longer buying 2D games, Nintendo decided to leave the game unreleased and instead implemented some of the ideas that this game presented into their big fresh 3D entry, Star Fox 64. When the Super Nintendo Classic Edition was released in 2017, the team making the system decided it was finally time to stop this game from dying in the Nintendo Vault, and the last finishing touches were made on the game so that it could be bundled in with the system and finally playable for the first time. Later in 2019, Nintendo decided to add it to the list of Super Nintendo games available to play with the Nintendo Switch Online service, meaning now the gaming community at large finally had access to the game. My expectations for this game were admittedly very low. I thought the first game was interesting and innovative for the time, and with this direct sequel being cancelled, I was expecting it to be a worse game in every regard. Star Fox 2 is actually quite a different game than the first, so let's dive in and see exactly how. The evil scientist Andross has returned, declaring war on the Lylat system and aiming for the planet Corneria out of revenge. It's up to Team Star Fox to take flight and destroy Andross's forces to stop him for good this time. If this plot sounds familiar to you, that's because it's the exact same plot as the first game. The only thing that's changed story-wise in this sequel is that we have a few new characters on both the good and bad teams. Team Star Fox is made up of your boys Fox McCloud, Falco Lombardi, Peppy Hare, and Slippy Toad, but in this game we have two entirely new female crew members. Here we have a lynx called Miyu and a dog by the name of Faye. As Star Fox 2 does not feature an entire crew in a single playthrough like the first game does, Miyu and Faye, along with the rest of the crew, don't share any unique or meaningful dialogue, which leaves the newcomers in quite a bland position when it comes to personality. Thankfully, they do at least have pretty cool designs to give them a little bit of an edge. The additions on the bad guy team come in the form of Team Starwolf. Yes, you did hear me right, Team Starwolf actually did originate here in Star Fox 2. Team Starwolf is a team of enemy fighters that are very similar to Team Star Fox and under Andross's leadership to take down Team Star Fox. They don't have much in the way of personality aside from this, but at least their designs are also pretty cool looking. That's all there is to the story and narrative of Star Fox 2, but the story isn't going to be the reason you're coming to this game anyway, so let's move on to that topic instead. The gameplay is where Star Fox 2 is at its most interesting. You'll still be going from location to location in the Lylat system, piloting an R-Wing to take down enemies, but the format is wildly different here. Rather than going level by level in a linear line to Andross, in Star Fox 2 we have an open map that you can fly around and explore at your own discretion. The basic rundown of the game is that Corneria is under threat, and you have to make sure that it doesn't fall under so much damage that the planet is destroyed. Depending on which of the three difficulty levels are picked, Andross will send out multiple targets into the Lylat system. Bases will be placed on random planets, and every so often these bases will send out enemy fighter groups to target you in space as long as they're left standing. There will also be multiple warships that Andross will deploy, and as they remain up, they'll send out missiles that will attack Corneria directly. The game becomes a balancing act between intercepting missile attacks, taking down groups of attacking fighters, and trying to work your way to taking on these various objectives to slow down Andross's overall barrage of attacks. While still being a rail shooter in combat, the overworld portion of the game and management of defenses and resources give this game a distinctly real-time strategy or RTS feel to it. In Star Fox 2, you'll pick 2 of the 6 members of Team Star Fox to control, meaning yes, you can play as any member you like this time. The members are split into 3 different stat groups, with Fox and Falco being the medium all-rounders, Peppy and Slippy having slower ships with higher shields for protection, and Miu and Faye having faster ships with minimal shields for health. It's up to you which combination you pick to take on the various objectives. The real benefit of this system is that when you're on the world map, you can press the select button to freely swap between your 2 picked fighters, so choose whichever one best fits the situation. If you do get fully shot down in combat with one character, however, they're fully gone for the rest of that playthrough, so be careful. You can fly back to your base in Corneria to fully recharge the shields of all your pilots and also teleport to any freed planet, but be careful as this will cost you time that missiles and enemy fighters will use to attack. The 2 main objectives you're going for in Star Fox 2, your planet bases and warships, both have their own methods of gameplay to take them down. The battleships will have you firing on enemy units until you reach said battleship, then we'll put you into an R-Wing flying section to avoid obstacles that feel like something straight out of the first game's design. Once you reach the end of the course, your R-Wing transforms into a Walker mode, where the R-Wing runs around on 2 legs and you have to rotate the camera to change the view as you strafe around and destroy the ship's core. The planet bases have their own spin on things, with you landing on the planet's surface and using the Walker mode to shoot down enemies and find multiple switches that will open the doorway to further inside the planet. In here, you'll take on multiple rooms of foes, including security robots running around and built into the walls, and make your way through to destroy the core of Andross's control modules affecting the planet. Which planets are taken over and how they play out, along with enemy warships, are randomized per playthrough, meaning not every time plays the same, with you taking the same routes to optimize. One thing that is constant though, is that at random intervals in your war, you'll come up against several boss fights, mostly in dogfights against members of Team Starwolf, which will provide actually difficult battles, but also against robotic beasts that Andross will send out to you. These bosses are all quite fun to fight, but not very plentiful, and they don't leave you much if any time to prepare, so I hope your fighters are full on shields when you come across them. The last addition to the gameplay only actually appears on higher difficulty levels, and those are the virus enemy type. As you fly around, a 3rd enemy type will be on the map that you can take on, and these fast little things are viruses that will fly towards Corneria's defense satellite and take it over, shutting it down if not destroyed. I don't hate this concept, and would have liked for at least 1 or 2 of them to show up even on normal difficulty. The interesting thing to note about the gameplay in Star Fox 2 is that the game is formatted around having much smaller scale encounters than the first game. I made a big point in my review of that game that the sense of scale meant the slowdown was frankly unbearable at times, and the way that combat encounters are structured here seems to have been done to directly work around that. Here you have 1 to 5 enemies on screen per battle, meaning dogfights in space rarely ever lag. The only times that I noticed a lot of slowdown were in some of the planet-based sections and battleships when I was controlling my walker and being shot at, as well as the final sections of the game since the intensity ramps up quite a lot. Overall, there's significantly less slowdown affecting the overall experience, but I can't deny that it's still there. The length of the game is also quite short again, with a playthrough on normal difficulty once you've worked out how the game works only taking you 30 to 45 minutes or so. The benefit is that the 3 difficulty levels here do actually provide different experiences, and I even found hard mode to be a greatly satisfying challenge without being a grueling punishment to the player. That's all I have to say about the gameplay, so let's move on to the design. Star Fox 2 carries a lot of the same DNA of the design of the first Star Fox game, with both being held back by what the Super Nintendo could offer. I do really enjoy the usage of colours to give some real personality in the art style and more dynamic cutscenes in the beginning and endings of the game, but overall, the rest of Star Fox 2 looks very similar to what we've seen before. With most standard encounters taking place out in the middle of space, most encounters are left with the regular blackness you'd expect when flying around the solar system, and with planet surfaces only being a small portion of the game, they're not the most elaborately designed, but at least the planet levels are quite fun to traverse around whenever you want to fly or walk. You do have less variety in enemy types compared to the first game, but there is definitely still a variety, and it's made up for by adding a lot more differing objective types compared to that game. Unique boss fights are also reduced on the whole, but I think the quality of the bosses has leveled out a bit more in Star Fox 2 and provides a better player experience overall. The one area where I was genuinely very impressed was with the character portraits of both the good guys and the bad guys. The sprite work for the characters is genuinely fantastic, and I actually really like the art used for the game itself. I realise that the portraits most likely were done in 2017 when the game was retooled for the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, because to me they seem too detailed of sprite work to have actually been on the original Super Nintendo. The soundtrack is another place where I have to give the game props. Here we have a whole new soundtrack for the game, and it may not have a whole lot of recognisable tracks or massive hits compared to other Star Fox games, but the quality of the soundtrack is very high overall and absolutely fits the feel of whatever you're doing in the game perfectly. With the design portion of the review done, it's time to move on to the conclusion. Star Fox 2 is a really fun and unique game that I'm really glad finally gets to see the light of day and be enjoyed by the gaming community. While it may still feature some performance problems, I think what's here and what the game does well deserves its spot in the Star Fox Hall of Fame, and I'd love to see even more ideas taken from this entry and explored later in the series, even more than Nintendo already has. For positives, we have fun new characters, a wide playable cast each with their own pros and cons for why you'd play as them, a fun RTS style format with different objectives to juggle, a new Walker mode for the R-Wing that controls totally differently and offers a new experience, a fun soundtrack, and more dynamic visuals. For negatives, we do have an incredibly bare-bones story that is almost identical word for word to the original game before it, slowdown issues still very much present, and character work being diluted due to the new format of the game. Overall, I think this is genuinely a great game, very much worth playing, and I'm very pleasantly surprised. It's not often that I think of a game and say, oh yeah, I could totally boot that up and just play for an hour, but Star Fox 2 is one of those games for me. Today, I'll be giving Star Fox 2 a score of 7.5 out of 10. I'm very excited to see as the series goes on how various ideas from this game got implemented and see how the series has evolved. Let's hope maybe Nintendo do a remake of this one next and greatly expand on it. That's it for the review today. If you've made it here to the end of the video, then thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.